It's the Rob Carson Show. Are you ready to be pod-smacked? Now, here's Rob Carson.
Here I am, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. If you are downloading this off of iTunes, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Google Plus, Google Play, Audio Cloud, Audio Boom, SoundCloud, host of other media. It is episode number 202, all right? For those of you who are watching this on Liberty One TV, hello and welcome. Welcome to the show. It is the 8th of November already. 1 week from my son's 18th birthday. Real quick. Ah! Okay, I'm better. So we've got a lot of things we want to get to. I guess the first, the big news of the day is Twitter now allows 280 character tweets. Did you hear about this? Okay, this would make it a little bit more interesting to me because I find the 140 rather restrictive. So they've doubled it. You'll be able to say a little bit more on Twitter with 280 characters. I haven't tried it yet today. This might cause me to like Twitter more. I don't like Twitter usually. Like Facebook. Facebook at Rob Carson Show. Twitter at Rob Carson. That's the big news. Oh, yeah, and then there were some elections last night. Here's what happened. A couple of blue states stayed blue, okay? A couple of blue states stayed blue. Virginia, a tough governor's race. Democrat Ralph Northam beat Ed Gillespie. This was not a big surprise. Gillespie had been behind by double digits, and it tightened up, towards the end of the campaign. But ultimately, it looks like Northam won. This is because Virginia is and I don't like doing the blue or red thing because socialism and communism are red, and they should be associated with the Democrat Party. Blue is the color of patriotism. That should be reserved for Republicans. So I don't like this blue or red crap. It's something that's been force-fed down our damn throat. It was created, I think, by NBC in 2008. It's a joke. But apparently the ad that was run by a Latino Victory Party did not backfire on them as much as I thought, and many people thought, that featured a Gillespie voter attempting to run down children of color with his pickup truck with a Gadsden flag and a Dixie flag in the back. All right? This is according to Northam last night during a speech. Virginia has told us to end the divisiveness that will not condone hatred and bigotry and to end the politics that have torn this country apart, even though he in the Democrat Party endorsed a commercial where a Gillespie voter attempted to run down children of color with a pickup truck. So, I mean, that aside, it's time to stop the race and the bigotry and the hatred. Yeah, okay. In New Jersey, you had a Republican or a Democrat Governor Phil Murphy. He won against Kim Guadagno, and he was succeeding Chris Christie, the most unpopular governor in the state's history. Okay. Democrats had already lost 4 special congressional elections earlier this year. Democrat leading Northern Virginia. Suburbs is what helped to propel Northam. Not a big surprise. And he won 53-45. Is this a bellwether for the Trump administration? I don't know. We've still got midterms coming up. You have to be ever vigilant. And you don't want to be ignorant and arrogant like Democrats were during the 2016 election cycle with Hillary Clinton. I don't want us to get stuck like that. And by the way, today is the 1-year anniversary of that. We're going to get some sound of last year, Donald Trump's victory, from beginning to end. We're going to cover it all. The laughter that the left, they laughed at us. When Donald Trump was proposed as a candidate, they laughed at us. As he was running, they laughed at us. And then as he won, they cried like little babies. And we'll get into some of the audio from that as the show progresses today. As far as some sound last night, CNN commentator Bakari Sellers remarked that fear and white nationalism were the planks of the Ed Gillespie campaign, which I didn't follow his campaign, but this whole white nationalism thing is BS. White nationalism, they accused the campaign of white nationalism by saying, that we're all a bunch of the Virginia voters are all white. They drive pickup trucks and they have Gadsden flags on the front of them. So they always wanted to throw white nationalism out there when it's not really the case. And not everybody in Virginia is a white guy driving a pickup truck with a Gadsden flag, license plate, and a Dixie flag in the back. Here's Bakari Sellers last night on CNN.
And what Ed Gillespie became, because many of us have known Ed Gillespie since he was at the RNC, but what he became was a candidate who ran on fear and white nationalism.
I don't think it's scary. There's anything scarier than being run over by a truck as a child by a white guy in a pickup truck, right? Am I right there?
Those were the planks of his campaign. And the question is whether or not those things have value. And if you tread in those things, can you be successful?
Now, it's interesting because the Democrat Party is the only party talking about race. And yet they're accusing the Republicans of racism. This is CNN correspondent Abby Phillip on the lead with Jake Tapper yesterday, talking about what Democrats need to do to win.
In order to bring out African-American voters, you might have to alienate some white voters. And it's a purple state. It's a place.
And again, this is the division. There's division there. Who in the Republican Party is talking about, whites and blacks, let's keep them separated. Let's keep them segregated. Let's give them separate voting booths and separate drinking fountains, for crying out loud.
Where Democrats still have to appeal to some white voters. And so that balancing act is really difficult for them to strike right now.
Yeah, we need to alienate one another. We can't agree on anything. That's the Democrat Party bringing us together. And yet they're saying that the Republican was all about white nationalism. April Ryan of the American Urban Radio Network, which I can guarantee you every person on the air there is black. And the reason why the place exists is to appeal to blacks. Okay, it's an American Urban Radio Network, okay? Urban Contemporary Radio is a format exclusively for blacks. There are companies like Radio 1 that pretty much exclusively on air have black people. The entire company, and I don't even bother to apply. That said, on Anderson Cooper's 360, she talked about how President Donald Trump has a low approval rating and how he fights it, okay? And who he has to appeal to remain popular. Listen to this, folks.
But this president is trying to find his way out, and he's doubling down with his base. And when it comes time to talk to his base, to galvanize them,
yes,
he hits with topics that really resonate with them. The Confederacy.
When has Donald Trump said, I want to return to the Confederacy? This is gobbledygook. Okay, this is BS. A little bit more.
Issues of race. I mean,
from the woman who works for the exclusively black network.
Resonate with them. The Confederacy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Issues of race. I mean, the NFL with taking a knee, or be it Charlottesville.
Most people disagree with the NFL, you doofus. 78% of Americans think that the NFL players should stand for the national anthem. You are wrong.
This president knows what strikes the chord of the quote-unquote forgotten man, the uneducated or those who have not attended college.
Okay, all right. So this is just, wow. This is so racist, so racist, so racist. All Donald Trump's supporters are white and uneducated. Now, I want you to just think about this, and I want you to look. And yes, there are poor areas of the country where white pregnancy, teen pregnancy, white dropout rates are very high. They pale by comparison to the inner city and African-American inner city youth, okay? And nobody's saying, well, Barack Obama's base is black and uneducated. They are black and if a Republican would have said that, profoundly offensive.
A white male who feels that they're on the fringe and not...
Well, I don't know. I would feel a little fringy, too, if every day you heard parroted in academia and on television that you're a white supremacist, you have white privilege, and yet you still have to go to work at that coal mine in West Virginia, or you still have to go out and get up in the morning at 5 o'clock and go out and feed the hogs and plow the cornfield every single day with your white privilege. I'd feel a little fringy too.
Touched by any form of government, and this president has reached out to them. So his numbers are low, but he keeps doubling down. But we've not seen kryptonite yet for this president.
Well, because the president has not espoused any of those things you just said. The president is talking about the economy. The economy is roaring back. The stock market is up 25% since his presidency. We've got the lowest unemployment rate since 2000. We've got the lowest number of people filing for unemployment since 1973. We've got housing starts going through the ceiling. We've got consumer confidence going through the ceiling. We've had 3/4 growth, which Democrats said they would never, ever see after Barack Obama. And all of that has happened. So I wouldn't exactly. What about strength against countries and despots like North Korea? What about shutting down Bashar al-Assad in Syria when he tried to when he successfully bombed with chemical weapons some of his citizens, and then Donald Trump ordered an airstrike? Have you heard anything from him lately? Yeah, it's all about the Confederacy. Yeah, uneducated white guys. Well, I'm an educated white guy. Thank you very much. Danica Rome was the first openly transgender state legislator to win in Virginia, and whatever. See, here's the thing. I wouldn't vote for someone because they're transgender, and I wouldn't vote against someone just because they're transgender. Okay, I don't give a crap. I don't give a crap. If I think you're sane. If your policies mirror mine, if I find them appealing, I don't care. I don't care if you tuck it or you let it hang out. I don't care. I think some things that Ed Gillespie I should say Republican Bob Marshall, who ran against Danica, I thought they were unwise. He called himself. I heard he declared himself once Virginia's chief homophobe. He constantly referred to this person living as a woman as a man, whatever. And I don't know how wise that is at this point. I mean, there's a lot of bat guano craziness associated with gender in this country, but I think to openly mock it as a political opponent is not a good idea. He also sponsored a bill that would have placed restrictions on transgender bathroom use. I don't think that was the winning issue, but whatever. The country's divided on that. All right, let's move on to some other stuff here. I want to touch a couple of items about this Devin Kelly, the shooter in Texas. The military dropped the ball on this guy, and this is almost as bad as Fort Hood. And there were even more warning signs about this guy. He had been court-martialed for domestic abuse, beating his wife and stepson, cracking the baby's skull. 2012, he escaped a mental institution. While he was an airman, he struggled with mental health issues. He was trying to carry out death threats to his military superiors and had already been caught sneaking guns onto his base. Okay? All of this stuff. He was not discharged dishonorably. He was thrown out of the military with a bad conduct charge. He was facing military criminal charges, but none of that happened. None of that happened. Now, I read a piece that the military has allowed this to happen. Where the hell is it? I've got it right here somewhere. That the military has allowed this to fester and allowed people to be discharged without any sort of, here it is. Here it is. The Pentagon is known for nearly 20 years about major reporting lapses of the FBI, to the FBI of criminals within the U.S. military. The AP discovered 20 years ago that detailed massive fingerprint reporting lapses of military criminals with the U.S. Navy and the Navy, U.S. Navy, failed to report 94% of cases. The lack of reporting to the FBI criminal history files prevents civilian law enforcement agencies from having significant information on military offenders. So they commit these crimes that in a civilian court would have gotten you a lot of jail time, but they release them wholesale from the military into the civilian population. Devin Kelly should not have been able to ever buy a firearm, but he was not reported to the national database to prevent that. The problem may be just as widespread today as it was in 1997. The U.S. military has reported only one misdemeanor domestic violence case to the FBI's background check system, widely used by sellers of firearms. This since 1997, the absolute vast majority of cases reported to the system by the U.S. military have been dishonorable discharges, numbering approximately 11,000 as of December 31st, 2016. So the military was not telling civilian agencies about the criminality and why they discharged these people from the military. They just called them dishonorable discharges. And consequently, they're still able to go on with their lives as normal and get weapons. I had a call about this yesterday at KFYI from a military man. He completely concurred with this. Everybody knows about it. Everybody knows about it. Jeff Peabody says the scriptures make it clear that Jesus has issued a very quotable directive that we are to arm ourselves with the tools and machinery of lethal force. Peabody teaches gun safety courses free of charge at a local church. From ministers to their security teams, the deadly mass shooting in Texas has sparked a variety of religious leaders across the country to consider packing heat for their congregation. We always have to temper our fear, with policy. And it's easy to react and overreact to these things. It's easy to, I think we overreacted to 9/11 to some degree. I think that we overreacted to some degree. And we are paying the price for it now with stupidity, with making people go through hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment that show you naked. They're taking little old ladies out of their wheelchairs. They're asking people to take off prosthetic limbs. They're strip searching. They're groping. And to some degree, this is a little extreme. In fact, I'd say a lot of extreme. As far as arming the clergy, why not? Why not? They are public figures. They speak to congregants. There's a church near where I live that has 25,000 members. Are all of those people going to be of sound mind and body? No. Do these churches, the large churches, have security? Mm-hmm. They do. They do. And maybe this is the way that smaller churches need to go. They need to consider, okay, we may not have 25,000 congregants. We may not be a mega church, but I'm still a target. And apparently the church that this Devin Kelly shot up, this guy wanted to be a member of the church, and the pastor did not want him in the church. He also was casing the church a week before for a Halloween gathering on the church grounds. So, probably not a bad idea. Let's talk about the election last year. Where were you when the election happened last year? I remember last year, everybody in the world was saying that it would not, even the days before, most Democrats, the day before, were saying it was not going to happen. I want to start with one soundbite from Ann Coulter before Donald Trump was the nominee, and this is on Bill Maher's show, and this is, to me, it's iconic because of the boldness with which she spoke. The prediction was very bold, and also the reaction from the audience. Very left-stacked, left-centered audience on all of these TV shows that are filmed in New York and L.A., and here she is predicting who the most likely nominee would be.
Okay, here we are. And which Republican candidate has the best chance of winning the general election?
Of the declared ones, right now, Donald Trump. I especially like
what about of all of them? I mean, Scott
fake
Walker?
Laughter from the audience.
The fake laughter from the audience, and that's how they reacted, and that was the reaction all the way through the election cycle. And you know what it was like, and when Donald Trump became the candidate, we all knew, we were getting shredded, we were getting made fun of. I wasn't convinced Donald Trump. I accepted him as the candidate, and I said from the get-go that I would support the candidate. And the candidate was Donald Trump, and I supported him through the P-word grabbing and all that stuff. And then finally, he hired Steve Bannon and Kellyanne Conway, and he started saying the things that I needed to hear. Here is a montage. We got a few montage of celebrities, of politicians saying there's no way that Donald Trump is going to win.
Donald Trump will never, ever be president of the United States.
That's Ronald Reagan, by the way.
That Trump should not be in this race. He's an absurdity. He is a travesty.
Donald Trump will never be elected president of the United States.
Donald Trump is a here today, gone tomorrow candidate for president of the United States. Donald Trump is not going to be president of the United States. Ever respectful of the fact that the people have not voted, he's not going to be president of the United States.
Let's be clear. Donald Trump will lose the election.
Trevor Noah.
I mean, he had a really good chance to be different and really have a chance to change things, but he doesn't do the work. He's lazy.
We talk about
How is Donald Trump lazy? He's the most unlazy person you could possibly imagine. As far as preparation for debates, yeah, I can see that.
him every day, and we continuously bash him.
He's not going to be the president. Don't worry about it.
The View.
Exactly.
It has to be a wake-up call to the Republican Party. Despite Boris thinking that Donald Trump could win New York, like this, the presidential race is over.
Could I just cut through? I have one
Bob Beckel was wrong about everything.
thing to say, one thing only, and that is that this race is over.
President Obama will go down as perhaps the worst president in the history of the United States! Exclamation point at real Donald Trump. Well, at real Donald Trump. At least I will go down as a president.
And there's the crowd. There's the crowd. You know, I want you to think about this. Listen to the arrogance and the hubris of the candidates. Listen to the audience, the late night audience, and media domination. Almost to the point of like bullying. Have you ever been bullied? I was bullied as a kid, and they were always the kids who thought they were so right. And I knew in my heart that I was right. And they would gather and they would laugh and they'd joke. And I said, I'll show you. I'll show you someday. I'll show you someday. And this may not be the best analogy, but I remember as a kid, I was always the last kid to be picked on the kickball team. I was always the last. I was a laughing stock. Nobody wanted me on the team. They always begrudgingly, I was the last person to be picked. And I just said to myself, someday you're going to be sorry. Someday you're going to be sorry. Not in a vengeance kind of way. But then I started to grow, and I thinned out a little in 5th grade, and then I got to be pretty big in 6th grade, and I was ultimately in 6th grade about 5'9", about 165 pounds. I remember I bought an entire wrestling tournament because they couldn't find another 6th grader big enough to wrestle me. And it was humiliating and embarrassing. And 6th grade rolled around, and I remember the game that I was picked last, and I remember when I got up to kick the ball, and I kicked that mother scratcher over the back wall. And all that year, every time I kicked the ball, it went over the back wall, and I kicked a home run because I was huge. because all these other 65, 75-pound kids could not compete against me. And I was the first to be picked. But there was a lot of finger pointing and a lot of laughter before that, and that's kind of... we have media bullies in this country. We have late night bullies in this country. He's laughing at the possibility. He's not going to win. What arrogance! What just unbelievable. What many people endured, and ultimately were proven wrong. Here's the Trump election victory and campaign. Kind of a short montage, front to back, from the announcement to the victory speech.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am officially running for President of the United States, and we are going to make our country great again.
Andy, I'm not saying I'm going to run for president, but when the time comes that I do run for president, will you remind me to enter on an escalator?
Yes.
I hear a lot of people say, it's just a bubble. It's going to go away, just the way Herman Cain and Michelle Bachmann and all these people did.
I continue to believe Mr. Trump will not be president. And the reason is because I have a lot of faith in the American people.
Fox News decision desk has called Pennsylvania for Donald Trump. This means that Donald Trump will be the 45th president of the United States.
I've just received a call from Secretary Clinton. She congratulated us. It's about us on our victory. And I can only say that while the campaign is over, our work on this movement is now really just beginning.
It is.
We're going to get to work immediately for the American people. And we're going to be doing a job that hopefully you'll be so proud of your president. You'll be so proud. Again, it's my honor. It was an amazing evening. It's been an amazing 2-year period. And I love this country.
There it was.
Thank you.
There it was.
Thank you very much.
I'll never forget that night, and just the, and I didn't gloat. I didn't gloat about it. Even the next day on the radio, I didn't gloat about it. But now, after he's been president for nearly a year, well, now 10 months, you still got the kids laughing and pointing, saying you can't, he won't, all that stuff. You've still got those who feel his victory was illegitimate. You've still got Hillary Clinton traveling the globe promoting a book, saying that the Russians interfered in the election. All of this is untrue. And, we've got 3 very hard-fought years ahead of us. We do. Because I know that the Virginia victory, the New Jersey victory, while unexpected, will embolden those whose sole motivator is not policy, is not a better policy, because you're not going to be able to beat Trump on policy as a Democrat. You're not. Because Democrat policies were enacted the last 8 years and the economy never went above 2% annual growth. Thousands, tens of millions of people added to the food stamp rolls. I could go on and on about the Obama economy. But as far as policy is concerned, they're not going to beat us with policy. What they're going to do is they're going to beat us with hate. They're going to beat us with hate. Or they're going to try to beat us with hate. And so we need to not be arrogant. We need to be positive, focus on the positive, not react to their hate, and it is hate. The only reason, Maxine Waters hates Donald Trump. That's the only thing that drives her. She hates. There was a lot of hate in the Virginia election. A lot of hate coming toward Trump and Gillespie voters. So, that's their tool. That's their tool and their tactic. It's not about policy. It's not about a brighter future. It's not about a history of success. It's about hate. It's about hate, hate, hate. We reject Donald Trump. Hate, hate, hate. That's what it's all about. I still like to, before I go to bed, when I go to bed, I'll give my wife a kiss goodnight, and I'll go up to the bed, and I'll have my smartphone with me, and I like to watch YouTube videos before I go to sleep. And, maybe Ben Shapiro. There's some Tucker Carlson. I love the Penn and Teller Fool Us. Have you seen that? Yeah, I've been watching that. Some America's Got Talent, and then I like to go back and just watch the election results again, and the look on CNN's face as it begins to sink in that Hillary Clinton is going to lose. Here's the election night montage. Another montage, ladies and gentlemen.
Donald Trump will carry the state of Florida.
I'm guessing that the people in Brooklyn, I can see their fingers.
That's
probably.
The Hillary Clinton headquarters.
Yeah, fingers probably bleeding because there's no more nail to bite.
I wouldn't call anything encouraging for Hillary Clinton at the moment, to be honest with you, my friend.
Wolf, the scene here is so different than it was a few hours ago when people were happy and relaxed. I have been looking around the room at people who are stone-faced.
I loved watching that. That's one of the best kinds of, and I don't revel in people's sadness. This is good sadness porn. I love to watch the Hillary supporters who are so arrogant, so confident, so willing to call me racist and you racist and you a Nazi and you a white supremacist, and sit there and watch them just cry their little hearts out.
Some of them have been crying.
This was a white lash against
Van Jones.
A changing country. It was a white lash against a black president.
He's so high. He's so high.
It's time to listen to us. It's time to listen to us in Michigan and Wisconsin and work for the people.
Hillary Clinton has called Donald Trump to concede the race.
Oh, I love that. And I went to bed that night, and I had a terrific sleep. And I woke up the next day and I gathered my thoughts about what I was going to say the next day. And I delivered a monologue that wasn't meant to be divisive. It was meant to recognize that the Democrats, their outsider, Bernie Sanders, if you want to call him an outsider, he had the election stolen from him. And the Democrat Party, and this is before we knew Donna Brazile said in her book that Hillary Clinton basically took over the finances, took over the hiring and firing, took over everything with the Democrat Party because the Democrat Party was so desperate. And I said, when you look at the questions being fed to Hillary Clinton and a host and debates, when debates were buried, when people wouldn't watch them, all of these things, I knew then that the Democrat Party had taken it out of the hands of the voters. And the outsider, a similar dynamic, I guess, to some degree, with Republicans, in which I said, and by the way, the theme of the election to me was people are sick and tired of spending their entire lives, or I should say, people are sick and tired of people going to Washington, D.C., spending their entire lives telling us how to live ours. There was that. And that was true. And I think it was true on the Democrat side to some degree as well, but they didn't have a choice. Hillary Clinton was force-fed to them. And that's what happened. That's what happened. Finally, I would be remiss if I didn't play just some of the left's meltdown when Donald Trump had won the election and the reality hit them. This is great stuff.
This is the time for real wisdom. Lightning round.
If Trump wins, how about bursting into tears and screaming for the next 45 minutes?
Well, America is crying tonight. I'm not sure how much of America, but a very, very significant portion. And I mean literally.
Oh, boo frickety who. Why didn't you say America is celebrating tonight? I'm not sure how many Americans, but a good share of America is celebrating tonight. You hack.
Crying.
Everybody is crying and so upset.
Everybody's not crying, Mika Brzezinski.
And it is the end of their world.
Feels like the end of the world.
On Lifetime last night, and I was
this makes me so happy. Oh, I just love this. It makes me happy.
Slowly getting drunk is what happened to me.
How do we explain how this is possible?
How did this happen? Experienced politician versus racist fake gynecologist.
Well, you forgot the experienced politician experienced in graft and corruption and lying and scandal. You forgot that.
Get your abortions now, because we're going to be and we're going to have to live with it.
You're awake, by the way.
Kill your babies in your womb now, because you won't be able to do it. You won't be able to murder and slaughter the little babies in your womb because Donald Trump's president.
You're not having a terrible, terrible dream. Also, you're not dead and you haven't gone to hell.
This is one of my favorite. This Rachel Maddow. I want to hear a little bit of this again. This is so wonderful.
You're not having a terrible, terrible dream. Also, you're not dead and you haven't gone to hell. This is your life now. This is our election now. This is us. This is our country.
This is a different Earth today than it was 24 hours ago. It's a different place. Because it just is different.
The woman who President Obama called the most qualified person ever to run for the White House couldn't break through. The question remains, who can?
Deeper concerns tonight that the world's shining light of democracy has gone dark.
Wow. I didn't think it'd gone dark. I was pretty excited about it, actually. I was pretty glad that Hillary Clinton got defeated, and I think that had she won, it would have gone dark. But, that doesn't matter to the mainstream media because they were thoroughly convinced Donald Trump wasn't going to win. They were willing to call Trump voters anything. They were willing to call Donald Trump anything, even though they knew it was wrong. They were willing to call us racists and Nazis and white supremacists and all this stuff. And they were wrong. And they got their asses handed to them. I still like to hear that Rachel Maddow. Before we go any further, look right above me here. You'll see that we have some politically incorrect swag T-shirts. We've got, you can get all of these logos put on T-shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts, onesies, kids T-shirts, women's T-shirts, tank tops, laptop cases, computer cases, mugs, all of the mouse pads, all of these designs are available on tpublic.com/user/conservatives. If you would order, that would be great. This is my and a friend of mine, Sam Cangelosi's design, and it is politically incorrect. And it is glorious, and it tries to be funny and also make a point as well. Christmas is coming up. Order it. Order something for your family. Order something for the conservative in your life. The liberal in your life. Veganism is an eating disorder. You see that up there. That's one of my favorites. That's something to give to the vegan who shows up at your Thanksgiving table and wants you to make tofu turkey. Tofurkey. Sometimes war is the answer. If you've got somebody in your life who's a veteran or an active duty military personnel, they know the reality. We live in a cruel world. Calm down. She lost. He won. Get over it. That's another one, but the Democrats have not got over that yet, unfortunately. Let's see. If they don't stand, I don't watch. I won't watch. That's good for the those of you who are going to be attending maybe tailgate parties or hanging out and watching football. A lot of Maryland-centric and Kansas City-centric designs because I've lived in both places. So all of that. Gay Talese. He is a veteran journalist and author. Told Vanity Fair on Tuesday about Kevin Spacey and how he molested his way through Hollywood and sexually attacked people, including Anthony Rapp when he was only 14 years old. He said, I feel so bad and I hate that actor that ruined this guy's career. He said, so, okay, it happened 10 years ago. Jesus, suck it up once in a while. See, this is the mindset that Hollywood insiders have, political insiders have. We've seen things in both of these circles that remained secret. A culture of depravity that has existed in Washington, D.C. and Hollywood that everybody knew about. And this is a man who's completely so out of touch with reality that he would consider an actor's career more important than a 14-year-old boy being molested. He said, you know something, all of us in this room at one time or another did something we're ashamed of. Yeah, but not for 30 years. The Dalai Lama has done something to be ashamed of. Jesus, God, are you kidding me? He said the Dalai Lama should confess. Put that in your magazine. Confess what, you ass? See, sorry, a career got ruined. Too bad, so sad. You know, there are a lot of people who thought Michael Vick, his career should be ended, and that because he was a dog fighter. He had dogs that he trained and he tortured and all that stuff. I didn't see Hollywood. They made more noise about that than than kids being molested. Gay Talese. What a D-I-C-K. Oh, you know what, the $1,000 iPhone 10? Apparently, a lot of phone makers want to go back to dumb phones. There is a $150 light phone, which only makes and takes calls. Transfers from straight from your smartphone, gives you a break from technology. The punked phone lets you talk, text, set alarms, use a calendar. It's $295. Nokia has launched the Back to Basics version of its mobile phone, citing durability and battery life. Okay, so a lot of people are considering, hey, you know what? What do we need all this stuff for on these phones? They're not really phones. And I've said this time and time again, they are supercomputers with a phone app. This morning, I lost my smartphone. And overall, I think these are a wonderful device. I think they're an enormous positive for mankind. On this, I have the Library of Alexandria 10 times over. I've got a camera. I'm able to communicate. I'm able to social network, which, you know, is not that big a deal, but it's kind of fun to be able to social network and share things. I'm able to do live video. I'm able to do all sorts of things. It is an amazing, amazing thing, and I never lose sight of that. These things are only 10 years old. But at the same time, you kind of got to wonder, these phones have maybe stopped our children from talking to us a lot. You know? These phones have probably ended, for many families, family vacations where the kids looked out the window as they drove to be entertained. These phones have caused people to sit in airports. And whereas people at an airport bar might strike up a conversation with the next person next to them, has caused them to sit here and look like this. It's caused people to walk into drinking fountains and nearly run into traffic. I don't know. It's a glorious thing, and with the glory comes some negative. I'll just go ahead and say overall, I think negative, or positive. But obviously, the use has to be tempered. But I lost this morning, and I was panicked about it. Because a lot of it has to do with all the stuff that's on it. And I back some stuff up into the cloud. But it's a pain in the arse to replace it. All this, and it's expensive to replace. And I lost it this morning, and I actually got on Facebook and I asked somebody to call my cell phone so I could find it. And I found it. My wife wasn't here and the kids weren't here, and I couldn't call my kids, wife and kids to say, "Hey, help me find my phone." Dallas man traveled to D.C. to kill all white police. His plan was sabotaged before he got started, though, because he told on himself on social media. Michael Orega got to the nation's capital Monday. He did something many travelers do on trips. He checked in on Facebook. This got to the Secret Service. He said, "Now I'm going to White House to make sure all white police to make sure I kill all white police." He's very bad grammar, and this is not the reporting. This is "Now I am going to White House to make sure kill all white police. I remove the power of darkness from USA in the powerful name of Jesus Christ. Put him in jail, Donald J. Trump, in mighty name of Jesus Christ." And he was summarily arrested. Not sure how he was going to kill all white police because he was unarmed. Democrats rolled out more legislation with regard to gun control following the mass shooting in Texas. It's amazing how they're able to just whip this stuff out. I mean, I'm sure they never think about gun control. I'm sure that the repeal of the Second Amendment, it doesn't even come into their minds until something like this happens. But somehow they're able to have a bill ready to rock and roll. Here's Sheila Jackson Lee blaming everything on just the physical gun itself, not mental illness, not society, just the gun itself.
Mr. Speaker, there are so many things that the American people
Representative from Texas, in case you didn't know,
have to deal with. And I think you've heard many of us offer our sympathy and concern for the tragedy that happened in my state. And clearly, one more thing that we don't want to deal with is the shooting of those people of faith praying on their day of worship, which is what happened in Texas on Sunday.
When was the last time that you saw a Republican be reactionary like this? I mean, I'm sure it happens on both sides, but every time something with guns happens, without fail, the reaction from the Democrats is always the same, always as immediate, and they always whip out the same talking points and probably the same bill.
So today I'm introducing H.R. 4268, the Gun Safety Not Sorry Act of 2017, that addresses a 7-day waiting period for purchases or sales of semi-automatic firearms, silencers, armor-piercing ammunition, or large-capacity ammunition magazines for purchase or transfer.
Now, the Texas shooter should not have had the ability to purchase a firearm. We already know that. So nothing that Sheila Jackson Lee is saying right now makes a bit of difference. There may be something with regard to the size of the clips that people can buy. I understand that. I'm not a big fan of bump stocks either. Are they that important to me? No, not really. The reason why people have bump stocks is because when they go out and they target shoot, it's really fun to have a weapon that is almost fully automatic. It's just fun.
And let me respond to those who offered mental health. Mental health, the data shows that Americans have more mental health problems than do people in other countries with fewer mass shootings. But it shows that an estimated that only 4% of American gun death could be attributed to mental health issues.
Well, I would say that's wrong, and she's incredibly wrong, because most of the American gun deaths are suicide. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm thinking that the suicidal thoughts and actually committing suicide, probably a manifestation of mental health issues.
Let's not keep giving excuses
or
blaming people with mental health issues.
Usually happy people, normal people, neurochemical imbalances, nothing going on there. They don't put a gun in their mouth.
I can assure you that is not the problem. As the article says in the New York Times, it's all about guns.
Guns. Well, there are people with guns who protect your sorry ass. Senator Angus King is an independent from Maine, and I thought he really put things into perspective because, listen, I'm not an assault rifle user, but he put it in perspective about what assault rifles really are all about. And what they are is they are your basic target or hunting rifle made to look like a military weapon because people like the look and the feel of it. All right? These are not military weapons. But I thought he really put it in perspective, and here's what he had to say about it.
No, I think we've got to look at that carefully. Here's the problem. I'm from a state where we have one of the highest gun ownership rates in the country, and yet we have one of the lowest rates of gun crime. An assault weapon, it's called an assault weapon, but it's simply a semi-automatic hunting rifle in costume with a different kind of stock. But the functionality of the weapon is exactly the same as they're probably
as a 30-06 or as a whatever rifle you have, except for, and also it has a clip.
I don't know, thousands of them in Maine and Alaska, all over the United States, that are used by legitimate hunters. So I have a problem with banning a weapon because of its appearance.
If you're hunting with a bump stock, you're a fool. I'll just say that. If you're target practicing, hell yeah.
And one of the problems that we had when they did
but hunters don't hunt with bump stocks.
Before was they changed the appearance a little bit, and the ban doesn't apply. I think there are other issues, for example, magazine size, that maybe we do need to have a discussion about, because a lot of times in these situations, apparently it's when the fellow, it's always a fellow, starts to reload, that's when you might have a chance to stop the tragedy. And so magazine size, I think, is something that we do need to talk about. But I've never been one to say, yeah, let's get rid of these weapons if it's really a semi-automatic hunting rifle.
Now, I think we could have a discussion about the size of the magazines. Sure. I could see that. Colin Kaepernick was offered a meeting with the NFL commissioner, Roger Goodell, about a week ago, and he hasn't responded. Why would he hesitate to meet? Well, apparently there is currently no information about Kaepernick's side, from his side, about why he has not accepted the invitation. However, it could be something to do with the pending grievance Kaepernick has filed against the NFL under the collective bargaining agreement. So there could be some of that. But apparently Goodell wants to meet with Kaepernick. He's playing a little bit hard to get. Mark Garrigus is his attorney. Says, we responded immediately that Colin would be happy to attend because of the grievance. We asked that a mediator be present, he said. What happens if Colin Kaepernick makes it back in the game? What if he's a Houston Texan? I don't know. He started a misguided movement that has caused a lot of money to be lost by the NFL, a lot of people to be angry about it. Mostly because there's no finish line. There's no we'll be happy when. It's really just, and I said this, it's about a generation that doesn't have a crisis and needs to create one. It's about a generation that doesn't have a crisis. And they need some sort of meaning, some sort of struggle, even though they're millionaires who will live a life no one has ever, very few ever dream of in this country. To be unbelievably wealthy and popular, retire at 34 with a pension that lasts them the rest of their lives. So there's no finish line. If Colin Kaepernick joins Houston, I won't watch Houston games. I don't anyway. California NAACP wants to get rid of the national anthem. They want to change the national anthem. NAACP is the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. If I just said the word colored people, I would get in a lot of trouble. And I just did, actually. But I'm saying it with the context of this. The NAACP passed a resolution in October calling the song one of the most racist, pro-slavery, anti-black songs in the American lexicon. Now, if I'm not mistaken, tens of thousands and millions of black people have stood and teared up, whether they be on the sideline, whether that be in the stands, whether that be watching television, when African Americans have sung the national anthem like Whitney Houston. People have cried. People have stood with reverence as the song was sung and the military flew over and we welled up with pride, and veterans, black and white and every color and persuasion, stood with pride. And now, because there's a moving target with regard to dissatisfaction and desire for some sort of institutional change that will never satisfy. Some sort of punishment for the deeds of 250 years ago, trying to set up 200 years ago with the standards of today. It makes no sense. There's a lyric to the national anthem, the third verse. Their blood has washed out the fool's footsteps pollution. No refuge could save the hireling and slave from the night of terror or gloom of grave. These lines refer to black American slaves who fought for the British during the War of 1812 in hopes of winning their freedom. So they fought for the British. Francis Scott Key owned slaves. Key said African Americans were a distinct and inferior race of people. It was 1812, guys. Terrible, awful. I get it, but it was the way of the world. Slavery was all over the world. California NAACP President Alice Huffman said the NFL's protest controversy would be solved by changing the anthem to something else. I think all this controversy about the knee will go away once the song is removed. Well, you're wrong. It's not about the anthem, you idiot. It's not about the words of the anthem. It's not about the words of the anthem. It's never been about the words of the anthem. Colin Kaepernick didn't know that third verse even existed. He only wanted to make a statement about police brutality in the country, a narrative that really isn't true. He wanted to make a narrative that he was not proud of his country, not the country's anthem. So you are so beyond wrong about this. The response, there's not been any legislative sponsors for the resolution, but there's one opponent, Assemblyman and gubernatorial candidate Travis Allen. He says, our flag and national anthem unite us as Americans. Real social change can only happen if we work together as Americans first. I agree. Another day, another fake instance of racism. This in the Air Force. Apparently, racist messages were discovered in September against several minority candidates at the Air Force Academy Preparatory School in Colorado Springs, Colorado. The message said, "Go home, inward." Video featuring Lieutenant General Jay Silveria had over 1 million views. Here's a couple of sound bites from the video, which, of course, assumes the worst of all of us, assumes the worst of America, that racism and bigotry are as alive as ever on college campuses, in Air Force academies, and it's quite simply not true.
You may have heard that some people down in the prep school wrote some racial slurs on some message boards. If you haven't heard that, I wanted you to hear it from me. If you're outraged by those words, then you're in the right place. That kind of behavior has no place at the prep school, it has no place at USAFA, and it has no place in the United States Air Force.
Well, the cadet who reported the incidences posted the messages himself. Same thing happened with near K-State in Manhattan, Kansas earlier this week. Man wrote, "Go home, inward, 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 inward," and it turned out he did it for himself. He did it. Case after case after case is shown that these are fake. These are put forward to forward some sort of narrative that does not exist in places, particularly in academia. I'm not saying that hate crimes don't happen, and there aren't rednecks who say, "Go home, inward," but it is not being fomented by the man in the White House. And it is not 1968 all over again. Here's a little bit more from the general's viral video about a racism hoax.
The power that we come from all walks of life, that we come from all parts of this country, that we come from all races, we come from all backgrounds.
Which, by the way, I'm not the only person. I grew up in the 70s as a kid, and Great American Melting Pot. We were always proud. We were always proud to be from all races and all colors and all creeds. When the hell did somebody just crumble that up and throw it away? We've always been this. You're stating the obvious, General.
Gender, all makeup, all upbringing. The power of that diversity comes together and makes us that much more powerful. That's a much better idea than small thinking and horrible ideas.
Yeah, well, the small thinking, horrible ideas came from a black cadet in your academy who made it up and wanted to paint the rest of the white cadets as racist. To create a false narrative. And to me, that is as disgusting as using a racial slur, to be quite honest. This is pretty funny. Beauty pageant hopefuls have sported beef bikinis to profess sexual harassment. Now, these are contestants in the 7th annual Miss Bum Bum Brazil pageant. This is a pageant that is based solely on a woman's ass. It's called the Miss Bum Bum pageant. It is essentially looking for the finest piece of ass in Brazil. They donned 110 pounds of raw prime steaks, these beef bikinis, to protest sexual harassment, even though they are attempting to be objects and objectified by just focusing on their butts. We are not just a piece of meat. We are blamed for being too sexy. And with Hollywood actresses, what was the excuse? A contestant told the London Mirror. Women are not just a piece of meat. Well, then stop performing in the Miss Bum Bum pageant, you doofus. Oh, here's something kind of interesting, and I think we're going to be done after this story. World's highest paid TV hosts. These are in the entire world. Kind of interesting. Man, there's a lot of money to be made in TV. A lot of money to be made in TV. Some people outside the top 10 list. These are Matt Lauer, Kelly Ripa, Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, Megyn Kelly, Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Fallon. They all earn at least $20 or $15 million. Nice work if you can get it. I'd take 10. I would work for 10, maybe even 9. Here are the top 10 highest paid TV hosts in the world. Number 10 is Heidi Klum, 21. Michael Strahan, $21 million. Sean Hannity, 36. Not too bad there, Sean. Bill O'Reilly, 37. Of course, 32 of it went to paying off a sexual harassment victim. Steve Harvey, $42 million. Simon Cowell, $43 million. A guy who really, does Simon Cowell, I don't mind Simon Cowell. I like him. Not one lick of talent. He has no talent whatsoever except for telling people that they sucked or they were good. What a racket, man. What a racket. Judy Shineland, $47 million a year for Judge Judy. Amazing to me. Ryan Seacrest, $58 million. He's on with Kelly Ripa now, right? Ellen DeGeneres, $77 million. And number one, which really surprised me, is Phil McGraw. Dr. Phil McGraw is still number one, $79 million a year. Unreal. That's a lot of money. All right. It's time for me to get out of here, guys. I want to thank you guys on Liberty One TV for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you'd like to write me personally, carsonontheradio@gmail.com. I am on Facebook at Rob Carson Show and on Twitter at Rob Carson. Make sure to check out the politically incorrect swag, tpublic.com/user/conservatees. We got some new Christmas stuff up there. One, it's very festive, and it says, I say Merry Christmas, get over it. You'll like that. And then, of course, join Liberty One TV for 33 cents a day. $10 a month and only $99 a year. It's a hell of a deal. And you got literally bunches and bunches of great opinions that are very diverse. They are generally conservative, and they are informative. They are entertaining as well. Liberty One TV, a bastion of free speech in a world that's trying to shut it down, like on campus, okay, like in the public square, all right? In the meantime, I want to thank you guys for joining me. This, again, was episode 202 of the Rob Carson Show podcast. Make sure to download it on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and all of the other big sites that you can find podcasts. Just look up Rob Carson Show. Have a glorious day. God bless, and I'll see you again tomorrow.
The Rob Carson Show. Friend him on Facebook at Carson Show, on Twitter at Rob Carson, and on Instagram. I think Facebook and Twitter are enough for now. We'll see you soon.